Hey everybody, welcome back to Shit Creek Survivors, where we share stories of resilience and tools for resilience. This week, I'm going to give you a behind the scenes look at what happens at an AA meeting. I'm going to share my story of having to get sober from alcohol and what happened at my first meeting, what I didn't know that I wish I did, and kind of what to expect once you get into the doors, what different kind of meetings there are, how to find a meeting, all of the good stuff. So that way you can either use it to help yourself or maybe you can use it to help somebody else. But anyways, it's pretty interesting. Here we go. All right. So what I thought we would do today, because I have not been going to my AA meetings. Like I haven't, and I don't
Yeah.
know what was going on with me. And it's like really it makes no sense. And I'm sure it will make no sense to a lot of people who aren't dealing with addiction or anything like that. But, I went into AA and I've said open and loud here that I went in there with my tail between my legs. I had
Yeah.
no other option. It was like I was going to die from alcohol, and this was following being shot in the head. This is like where,
Apex. The apex
yeah,
of your depression.
it all came together. And it was
The
like literally
inversion of the apex of your depression, I
the
guess, would be the bottom.
because what you find out is I felt like I was in a hole. And
Yeah.
the whole time I was in this hole, I thought at any point I could climb out. Like I had enough willpower and whatever. I was kind of drinking, staying in this hole, staying safe, staying hidden, all this kind of stuff. And as time went on, I needed more alcohol to get that effect. Unfortunately, I needed different alcohol after time from beer to higher into, strength and like all this kinds of stuff. And I found myself in a place where after I had been, shot, after I had been let go, my body was physically addicted to alcohol. My mind was addicted to alcohol, and I couldn't see my life in the future with alcohol because I definitely die. I knew it, or without alcohol.
Well,
Like,
you almost pretty much tried to kill yourself by drinking yourself
yeah.
under at the year mark when you went to
And
the ICU, right? Wasn't that kind of alcohol related?
yeah, absolutely. I was ready to die. I didn't care. I was ready to die. I didn't care anymore. But as I got to, so a year to the date of me being shot, I end up in the hospital, right? And it's due to high blood pressure. Really, it's Press syndrome that they identified, which is the pressure inside my cranium was so high it was squeezing my brain.
Right.
And so they were like, we need to, do whatever we need for that. But while I was going through treatment for that, my body went into alcohol withdrawal, which meant I started like basically having seizures, shaking, like all that kind of stuff. I was lucky because I was in a facility that had the necessities and the means of treating someone who's going through actual physical withdrawal. The truth is, I didn't know how powerful alcohol was. I didn't
Right.
know that it could kill me. I was like, this, you grow up, everyone's drinking, blah, 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 blah. We're from St. Louis, or at least for a period of time where Anheuser-Busch is, everyone's drinking beer, everyone's having a good time, Cardinals games, Rams games, all this kind of stuff, just normal stuff. But at some point, alcohol changed for me. It became a necessity compared to something that I could have, right?
Yeah.
And that's a really scary moment because you know that you're in the middle of it. And especially like I was ashamed for sure because, I'm a former police officer. I had seen these people, we'd handled
Yeah.
calls with people who just can't get their stuff together. And you're like, how could you be this person? You've got a family, you've
Yeah.
got all this kind of stuff. The police are in your house. What the fuck is going on? And like,
It can happen to anybody. Anybody can be depressed.
and before I knew it, literally, the call. I've got police in my house the day that I started the year to the day of
And
my,
this is all tripping up your ego too, I'm sure.
yeah,
Like just like double down on your depression even more. Like this isn't who I am. This is who I was supposed to be.
yeah,
Like you just said. Like I've dealt with people that have been like this, and I always knew that I would never get this bad, and then all of a sudden it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you also have the impression that alcoholics like are homeless and live under a bridge. And you know what I mean? They're at the corner
Yeah.
asking for change and you're just like, get your life together. Like now I'm on the other side of that. Like I'm the one who's like telling myself, get your shit together. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck are you doing? Like, and I have been told by my mom that alcoholism did run in my family since I was a young kid. So My reaction to that was
I'm
pride and
just
ego.
embracing my heritage.
Yeah, no, well, it's
That's
like,
what I
well,
says that. I'm
that
embracing my
won't,
heritage.
well, I was sure like that won't happen to me. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
that too.
I don't live under a bridge. I'm not a loser. But all this kinds of stuff. And I got to a point where I had to go to AA. And all of a sudden, like for me, that felt like I was homeless. I was living under a bridge. I was less than. I was, all this kinds of stuff. Looking back at it now, I was just at an apex where my alcoholism was really fucking rampant. And I got to a point where like I felt like I needed alcohol to even get through the day. But I knew
Yeah.
as soon as I started drinking, the cycle would start over again. There would be no ending until I went to sleep or passed out. And then as soon as I woke up the next day, I was like, am I going to do it again today? Why not? For a while when I was doing public speaking, I was talking about it was my pause button. And on a daily
Okay.
basis, I was literally going, not today, boom. And then
Yep.
I would start drinking like as early as possible.
That's
You
a
know what I
great way to
mean?
put it. That's a great
Not
way to
to,
put it. It's just a
not to,
pause on life button. I just want to pause everything for a second. Like, nope,
yep.
I can't deal yet. I'm not ready.
And I kept doing it all the way to the point where I had eliminated any chance of a choice
Yep.
of I should step away from this. Now I think I knew inside that, but that I was over consuming, that I was using alcohol for much more than I should have been using alcohol for.
Yep.
It became I worshipped it by the end of it. I was obsessed with alcohol. The day was basically like built around it. When am I going to drink? But
Yeah, absolutely.
it came off as like cool. It was
Yeah.
like, my ego was in there. The devil's in there being like, yeah, you deserve it. Why not? Give it one more day. You'll fix it tomorrow. Or, oh, it's Wednesday. Why don't we fix it on Monday? Monday's a great day to fix stuff, and like all this kinds of
Yeah.
stuff. So I was constantly
Can't
hitting
fix
that
it this
pause.
weekend. I have a wedding coming up. Let's wait until next week.
Exactly.
Always making the
Exactly.
excuses, pushing the goalpost further and further back.
Right. So,
But you hit the nail on the head there for a second. Though. Let me just go ahead and say as well, since I've been trying to slow my drinking down, and like I said, my goal hasn't really been to stop, but my goal has been not to have it as a crutch, where I had been before, and I'm still kind of processing the idea of whether that's a reality that I can actually succeed in or not. Then I'll get there. We'll figure it all out. But to your point of like everything was about alcohol, like you're going to a family function, you got to have your backup alcohol drink ready to make your mixers when you get there at sporting events, whatever. You got a flask, and you're sneaking a flask in so you don't have to pay outrageous prices for the extra drinks at the concessions. You're complaining about how the shots are. Like that wasn't a really 3 count. That was more like a 2.5. I mean, think about how you said you're obsessed with it, and we do that. But I feel like when I decided I was going to do less, and there's going to be less of those moments, I suddenly felt panicked. Like, what is life going to be like if I'm not this party going dentist that always has a drink ready to go?
yeah.
Trying to get the party started and all that things. It's like, what's life going to be?
I 100 believed it was going to be so boring
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like it was just going to be miserable. I was like, I don't want to live life without alcohol. Like I really was there. Like my obsession was just like encompass not only me, but my household, everything. You know what I mean? Like my world. I don't think you're there yet or anything like that. And what's cool about what we're doing right now is like this, we're having basically like a,
Well, I came to that a little bit when Dad before his surgery was like, "Well, I'm not going to go to bed without a couple drinks first." And I just remember going, like, this is like the most mortal moment of your existence, and you're going into a really serious surgery to perhaps prolong your life, perhaps not, and you're still thinking about alcohol. And I just had that flash, like, I don't want that to be me. That's where
yeah.
my flash came in, realizing that I was using it too much as a crutch. Maybe I do need to just completely cut it off. We'll get to that bridge when we get. No, like you said, you had to have a moment. I did have a moment. It just wasn't quite as impactful. I mean, or as serious as yours, if you will. Maybe I don't know.
Hey,
But we're not
remember
here to
the,
compare. We're not here to compare.
no, 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 no. Exactly. So what we're doing is we're basically having a spontaneous open AA meeting. And
Okay.
so really, really quickly to like clarify who anyone who's listening,
Yeah, I
if you
haven't been to
ever,
an AA meeting, so I don't know.
yeah,
I'll be the
exactly.
I'll be the
So
questions for the. I'll bring up some.
Perfect. And like that's so great because I wish that I knew what was going to happen once I opened the doors going into AA. Now,
Yeah,
sometimes ignorance is bliss. And if you are literally on fire and they're like, there's a pool to jump in right there, you might run in those doors,
yeah,
of a panic, like I need help, what's going on, blah, 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 blah. But it's not like running into the emergency room, right? It's not like they can treat you right then and there. It's a program to help people who have an obsession with alcohol come together, try to understand why that's going on, and figure out resources and ways to kind of move away from that. And when I first got into AA, again, it was not by choice. I was pretty much assigned by my therapist, you go to an AA meeting tonight, otherwise we don't work together.
yeah,
I knew in my heart that I my relationship with Kate would suffer if I didn't jump on this. I couldn't be a weight
yeah.
on her ankle, that sort of thing. And I just like with pure desperation went to my first meeting. I was literally shaking, like withdrawal shaking kind of deal, scared mainly, fearful, ashamed, all that kind of stuff. That was all that was going on in me, right? But, I went to an AA meeting. And there's different kinds of AA meetings you can go to anyone who's listening. One is an open AA meeting, which is kind of like what we're doing right now. I
This would
identify
be like
as,
spontaneous hip pocket training, like just
well,
randomly
kind of.
talking and just kind of just
It
sharing with
means
each
that
other.
It means that the meeting is open to anyone. You
Okay.
actually don't have to be an alcoholic to be at an AA meeting. You could be a relative of an AA, you could be all that kind of stuff. Now, they do have a program called Al Anon, which is separate. That's for people who aren't alcoholics, who have alcoholics in their life, and they're trying to understand how can this be? Because on their side of the fence, they're like, this makes no sense to me, right?
Yeah, I can see
So
that.
it actually gives them an opportunity to get around people at an Al-Anon, like spouses of alcoholics, partners of alcoholics, brothers, family, all that kind of stuff. Because to them, not being alcoholics and they're watching the actions of the person that they love in alcoholism do like crazy, stupid stuff. They don't understand it, but it makes it a little bit easier to understand when someone else raises their hand and like, oh shit, my husband, my wife, my blah blah blah, my blah blah blah. I'm going through the same thing. Like, why
Yeah.
won't they just stop drinking? That's Al-Anon, okay? What we're doing right now is an open AA meeting. And that means anyone who is welcome, who has issues with alcohol, and potentially it's open to people who are family members or are curious about alcoholism and that sort of stuff. The doors are open. Now, you can have a closed Alcoholic Anonymous meeting, which means in order to be there, you do have to identify as an alcoholic. So sometimes that's a little bit easier for people. They want to know that everyone in that room is an alcoholic. They don't like the idea of someone else being there.
Okay, so that's just going to ask that. You think that you could share more in those in environments? Do you feel safer?
Yeah, I think so. You know what I
Okay.
mean? That's how I started. You can also then find meetings that are specific to different groups. So I first started out going to a men's group, and it just so happened that was the meeting that was closest to me when I was first getting into AA. But it was a men's group. It was located at a church. So at like kind of, they're usually at public locations, whether it be a church, whether it be a hall, whether it be something like that. It's just an area where basically members of AA have gone to and asked, is it okay if we host AA meetings here? Obviously, we're going to take care of everything that we're able to touch. We're going to pay you for the meetings, for the rental space, all this kind of stuff. We just would like your blessing in order to do this. And a lot of times that happens at churches. That was a little bit of a barrier for me too, because I didn't want God. I just needed to get sober. I just
Right.
needed to get sober. I didn't care about anything else. I thought I was going to die by alcohol. So,
And if you would have thought about, if you would have been told the big picture, would that have hindered you going in? If you would have been told, like, if it would have been broken down a little bit more than like you have to, you're on fire, through those doors is the pond of water to jump in. But
yeah.
after that, you're going to find faith. You're going to start believing in God and stuff like that. Would you think that would have like been all of a sudden like, well, now I don't want to? I'm
No,
just curious.
no, absolutely. And what I did, because I'm a control freak.
Yeah.
I was just slicing off bits of the program when I first got there. But really quickly, really quickly. So that's the difference between an open and a closed meeting. Okay. So for me, closed meeting, really fit me. I wanted to be around alcoholics. I didn't feel like being looked at like a caged animal. That's not what's happening, but that's the thought process of an alcoholic. It's like, I want to be around alcoholics. I don't want to be watched. Your ego's all in there and all this kinds of stuff. So, and then I found a men's group, which I thought was a better place for me to share personally. It just ended up being what was available to me in the
Yeah.
area, but I really liked it. Then I started going to other meetings too.
I can see a comfort level between men and women being a thing
Yeah,
too.
and
Some
they
sort of
have all
tension.
women's. Yeah, they have all women's groups too. They have mixed groups. They have all kinds of stuff. It depends on what's available in your area. Now, what's really cool, and COVID really drove this down, is there's a lot of virtual AA meetings you can go to. If you
That's a good
kind of
idea.
wanted, yeah, if you kind of wanted to like get in there, kind of see what's going on, I'm trying to give you like a back door to what you're going to witness. All right. So really quickly, well, I think another thing to clarify is I didn't know this because I wasn't familiar with AA, but I've heard a lot of times that a boundary for people going into AA is like they don't want to belong to a cult.
Okay.
They feel like it's like these people have
That's
found
it.
Jesus
Yeah, it's
and
kind
they
of in
want to
line
be
to what I
like,
was asking. That's kind of in
you
line
know
to
what I
where I was
mean?
going.
Like a Cameron's allowed to go in his brain and think his way through this. It was like, I need to put one step in front of the other and do what I'm told because my actions up until this point have not worked out. And if I knew what to do, I would have done it a while ago. It's not working. I'm at my wit's end. So when you go to your first AA meeting, you're either going to go in there rock bottom, you're going to go in there getting more information, whatever you're there doing. Let's talk about what you're going to run into. So the way you would find an AA meeting is going online and say AA meeting and I put Cartersville, Georgia. And what it does is about like somewhere on the first page is it will actually give you AA in Georgia or AA in Cartersville, Georgia, and you click it and it's going to give you a table or a list of different meetings in your area, the locations, what kind of meeting it is, whether it's an open or closed meeting, yeah, location, time, all that good stuff. That's all right there. AA meetings are free. You can go to them. You don't have to buy a ticket. You don't have to sign up in advance. You just show up. Okay. And when you get there, here's what's going to happen. You're going to park in the parking lot. Let's talk about my first meeting. I park in the parking lot. My head, my head is down. You know what I mean? And I'm just like putting one foot in front of the other. I can't believe that my life has gotten to here. I'm so shameful. And God's there, or I'm not really working with God at all. I'm just I can't die by drinking. That's where my head is. I can't die
Yeah.
by drinking, but I can't live a day without it. I'm trapped. You know what I mean? I'm absolutely trapped between a rock and a hard place. And I go to the front door and there's a super pleasant person there, like, hey, how are you doing? And trying to shake my hand. I wasn't in the mood to shake a hand.
Yeah. And they probably
This
do
is
that. You probably have the first time that's happened.
this is my worst day. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, I am licked. I don't need to like just fix me. I don't know why I'm here. Like I think I'm gonna die by alcohol. And so they kind of bring you in and you sit down. And of course I do the classic. I go all the way to the back. You know what I mean? Pull out the phone, act like I'm doing something, looking down, all this kinds of stuff, waiting for the meeting to start. And boom, at the top of the hour, it's like, all right, everybody, here we go. Welcome to this meeting, yada, yada, yada. And what they do straight out of the gates is they read the 12 steps of Alcoholic Anonymous and they also read the traditions. So it's a little extreme when you first hear it, especially when you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. So let me read what you will
Yeah.
hear when you first
Okay.
get into the meeting. Does that make sense? So the 12 steps of Alcoholic Anonymous. Let me move it over here so everyone's not looking at the side of my head.
Oh, you got a beautiful profile.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So the 12 steps of Alcoholic Anonymous, AA, are a set guiding principles outlining a course of action for recovery from alcoholism. These steps are one, and you're going to hear someone read this whole list. So now it's going to sound familiar to you. It's not going to be your first time. You don't have to pick it apart.
Mm.
You'll hear it here. And then if you need to go to a meeting, go to a meeting. But the first step of the 12 steps is we admitted we are powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. Two, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. There should be a thing after that, unless it were to cause harm to them or others.
Okay.
Made direct amends. That's this one right here. So 8 is made a list of persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. But then 9 is made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would cause injury to them or others. You
Yeah.
don't need to go chase down your ex-wife and tell her how many times you cheated on her. Since she's married, she doesn't need to know that, all that kind of stuff. Leave her
Yeah.
alone. Let her live her life, all that kind of stuff. It's like there's certain things that would basically you're banging a hornet's nest and it could hurt the person next to you. Don't do it. It's
Yeah.
amazing that you've gotten to this point. 10, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through personal prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of the 12 steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. Okay. So that is the 12 steps. Now, let me rewind.
A little bit of the serenity prayer here and there at the second to last step.
Yes, there is a serenity prayer. So let me just rewind. That was a lot of information. We're just trying to tell you what's coming down the road. It's probably not in that meeting, but you're going to hear a lot of information, and I don't want you to block it out because it sounds like a lot. When you start getting sober, that's when step 1 starts. As you continue, depending on if you're working with a sponsor, which the program does encourage you to do, find someone who's done it before and ask them how you did it. And then basically get to the point, and you can meet with that person and be like, I'm not powerless over alcohol. Like, say whatever you're thinking. Like, I think I maybe have an allergy, or it's just a small thing, or a crutch that I use, and all that kind of stuff. Speak it out, but talk with someone about it in AA, because you're talking to someone who knows the language you're speaking.
That's true.
And what happens is I was not willing to admit I was, with my tail between my legs on that first day. I was willing to admit I was powerless over alcohol. And beyond that, of course, my life had become unmanageable. I couldn't see life with or without alcohol. That in itself qualified me for this program. Okay. Having a higher power is not a prerequisite. Okay. My higher power, when I got to, a power greater than myself, step number 2, my higher power was what to start?
A chair.
A chair, because that chair was making better decisions than I was.
I love how you say that. I love that part. I love that.
I was not ready to talk to God. God, now I see I was hiding, but I was also angry. If you're there, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Where were you? All this kinds of stuff. I don't trust you. I don't care about you. I need to get sober because I'm not going down this way, kind of deal. You're inspired by it. You're like, fuck you. I'm getting sober anyways, kind of deal. And then what I heard in the first meeting was someone say, I have an allergy to alcohol. I'm like, bam, I've got an allergy. I'm not an alcoholic. I've got an allergy to alcohol. So I was able to pick that little bit up and be like, okay, I understand that. And that got me to kind of listen. And what's crazy is you get into an AA meeting and people start telling you stories of like embarrassing, stupid, just outright bad decisions while drinking alcohol. And during those moments, there were points where whether it was a person who didn't have a job was talking or a doctor in the room, I could be like, oh man, I think like that.
Yeah.
I've done that. I've rationalized why I should be drinking more. Hey, why? It's not a weird thing that I drink a monster drink with my alcohol to make sure that I stay up to consume more. What's the big deal? I want to party. You know what I mean? So it's like you start hearing other people with your same process, same thought process. You're not accepting them as anything, but you're just like, this kind of sounds like an echo of what's going on in me. And after a couple meetings, I never shared. They give you an opportunity to share during the meeting. Does anyone want to share something that's bothering them? Hell no. Get me in and out of here. I'm not saying a word. I'm going to check the box off that I went to a meeting today. Boom. That's where I was. But as time went on, you start learning a little bit more and you start hearing freaking doctors talking about how they're drinking vodka in the middle of the night. And you're like, holy smokes. Like you have everything I thought you possibly needed to be happy. You've got money, you've got position of power, you've got prestige, and you're still drinking to the point where like it's affecting not only your personal life, like your family, but it could potentially like affect your job, something you committed your whole life to. What are you doing? And then you like realize you're like, oh shit, it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter your profession. It doesn't matter your race. It doesn't matter your religion. We've all got an issue here. Maybe alcohol is dangerous. Because
Maybe
again,
alcohol is the problem.
because my governor made me, like, it wasn't alcohol was the issue. It was just like, I was so prideful. I couldn't admit that I had been licked by something.
Yeah.
It just like, and it took time, and until I really got some like help from the program, I wasn't willing to admit that I needed it even.
Yeah.
I'm like, not for me, not for me. Because it's almost like a tricky thing in your head. If I start accepting this, then maybe I really am a bad alcoholic, or maybe I am an alcoholic. So you're
Yeah.
kind of doing this dance. And so for a
Like
long
everything
time,
changes once you admit that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
maybe it
it's
is supposed
hard.
to.
Yeah, it's hard once you speak it out there to take it back, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting in my first AA meeting. I'm listening to them. Now, towards the end of the meeting, be warned, they are going to, well, they're going to say at the end, I didn't know they did this, but in a group of men, about 30 in that room, that first time I went to men's AA meeting, we all
Yeah.
stood in a big circle, holding hands, saying the Lord's Prayer.
Okay.
This was not something I had been doing at all. This is something I was rejecting. I didn't say the prayer or anything like that. Okay. What's happening now that I realize it 8 years afterwards is you're actually standing in the presence of people who have been through the 12 steps, not people who are just trying to get sober. That's what's
Yeah.
really happening. But for some reason, when I went in, I'm like, okay, everyone here is just trying to get sober, right?
Yeah.
But but after a while in AA, it's like the things that they tell you are going to come true do start coming true. Anyways, that's over the top. We're going to talk about what it
Well,
is you're
and
going to
that's the
be
part where it
hearing.
becomes personal. A personal journey. Your personal journey goes that direction. Everybody's personal journey will go their own direction, and it'll be very similar in a lot of ways, probably. But they have to kind of experience it themselves, probably. One of those kind of things. It's kind of
Absolutely.
like you. I mean, like you even said, like you went there, you're like, I'm not gonna do the religious part. So the chair is the higher power. I'm not gonna do the
Hmm.
Lord's Prayer. Everybody's holding hands. But I think I noticed this for myself personally. I wonder if other people felt the same way. When you're trying to avoid religion, and somebody brings up religion, or you're going through the or the radio program in the car, and a Christian song comes on, I feel like when I was trying to reject it and push religion away a little bit, I felt like I was like, oh gosh, not this.
Hmm.
Like I don't know. There's something palpable there. There's something visceral there. Like if you really want to not believe, then why would it matter if somebody else did believe and was doing it? But why would you get offended when you hear somebody else doing it? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why would you get like on edge or on guard? On guard as
I
you hear like,
did.
you get on guard as soon as you hear it, you get kind of guarded. You're like, oh, why?
Yeah. I
But
was
there's
like,
something there. There's something there for that.
I
There's
was
something
like,
real there.
where you're like, whoa, 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 whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't want all
I
that.
think that's proof that there's something real there.
Like I want the sober part. I don't want the other stuff. Don't give me the other stuff.
But even if you're a devout Muslim, or what, I mean, just the idea of saying something about Christ would be bad. My neighbor's a Muslim. I said something about we found an Easter egg that we left out, and I'm like, oh, like you celebrate Easter? I mean, like, what? I'm not trying to offend you. I hope you didn't take it that way, you know. The tip for the barber that did my beard and stuff around Christmas. I gave her a bigger tip and said, I wanted to say Christmas. She's like, I'm Muslim, I don't believe. And I said, well, I do, so you don't have to believe for me just to give you the extra tip. Take it however you want. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to preach at you,
Yeah.
but even in those regards, like I believe what I believe. I'm rediscovering some things that I've believed all my life. But when I'm hearing Muslims do their prayer when I was in Iraq, or when I hear people say they're Muslim, my neighbors or my barber, I never felt like the need to say like, well, your religion's wrong, my religion's right. I've never felt that kind of need. That's my point of what I've said all along, that Jesus is love. You're just supposed to share love. Just be loving to your neighbor. Be kind. Just
Yeah.
be kind.
Yeah.
Just be kind. I'm even wearing a shirt that says be kind.
And the idea of a higher power isn't supposed to be like you've got this king above you telling you what to do.
Right.
Everyone in the room looking at one another being like, I fucked up, you 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 fucked
But
up.
it's a lesson of accountability.
Yeah. So what we need to do, kind of like the Ten Commandments, is we need a higher governing body that we can refer to on the steps we should take to get
Right.
sober. Do you get what I'm saying? Because if it's
I'm
up to
with you
man,
100%. I'm
yeah,
saying even for like the atheists out there, for the one or the few watchers that do post things about what if God is just a figment of your imagination on our YouTube channels and stuff like that. To those people, why does you get so defensive when somebody talks about Jesus or religion in any religion, in any form?
yeah.
Why do you get defensive of it? That's because there's something inside of you that doesn't want to accept that as the truth, right? Like you rejected it fundamentally. I reject it. I don't want. Well, that's probably because you're sinful and prideful inside, and you're not ready for it yet. You're not ready to. I didn't mean to get off on a tangent. Let's stick to the AA stuff.
No,
I
I
just feel
get
like
where you're going.
remembering it for myself, and I'll bet you a lot of people feel that way, and it makes you wonder. Just makes you wonder, why would you be, if you really didn't believe in an all higher power and there was no higher power, why would you feel that defensive mechanism when you're trying to stay away from it?
I find that when you shine bright about whatever's going on in your world,
Yeah.
sometimes it can cast light in the shadows of people's lives that they're trying to keep dark. So
And you
instead of like being
and
happy
you
for
don't even have
you
to
for
say anything about it. Like you don't like you're feeding right into a point that I'm trying getting ready to make. You're feeding right into it. I love it because it's exactly how we feel as human beings. For a majority of us, I would imagine. I would imagine. I can't speak for everybody. For me, it worked for me that way.
yeah.
Okay, so my journey now has brought me to this point where I'm kind of rediscovering things and we're talking about religion a lot more. I'm feeling it more in my heart. I'm trying to make good decisions for the right reasons, trying to impact their life. Blah blah blah. Just 2 weeks ago, I went to a bachelor party for this wedding that I'm going to this weekend. Good friend of mine. We were in basic training together, all that kind of stuff. Well, we went to a couple strip clubs, and I was trying to be a good boy. I mean, a couple dollars here and there at the stages. I'm not going to do any lap dances. I'm being a good boy. I'm more the sober driver anyway. I didn't drink, so all these things were going on. But some of the dancers would look at me like one just looked at me and goes, "Fuck you," for no apparent reason, for no particular reason. I'm like, what? I mean, I don't know. I felt like I noticed things like that. That was more obvious, obviously, but there was other, just like the way they kind of interacted with me at the bar, walking by, at the stage, wherever. There's just something about where I was emitting like an odor that they didn't want anything to do with. And I'm thinking it's because of all the stuff that we've been talking about lately, and
Yeah.
how I'm trying to get filled with God's love. I'm trying to be a glove,
Yeah.
and they could
Yeah.
sense it, and they don't like it, and they push it away, and they get defensive.
So what's funny is like this, what we're talking about right now, when you go into an AA meeting, you'll find people who have just gotten to this point. And
Yeah.
it's like they've discovered magic. And what happens is they start running around being like, I found magic. And then
Exactly.
people who are new can sometimes be repelled by like that. They're like, I don't need all your energy. I'm just here to get sober. And I was that guy. I'm sitting in the back. I'm only taking bits and pieces, tools that I need,
You probably
right?
had your hat pulled down real tight.
Yeah, whole time.
You're probably
And then
stretched up
and
in
then my
clothes.
big and then my first big step was when you go to speak, you identify as, "Hi, my name's Cameron. I'm an alcoholic." And I didn't want to say it. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
didn't want to say that in public. And so it's like,
It's
because
like
what
accepting
happens is,
defeat when you say it, and you're
well,
rejecting it
kind of,
fundamentally.
and this isn't your business. You know why I'm here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm salty. I'm like, fuck you. You know, like that sort of thing. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, how the hell did I get here? And then like, so we're going through this men's group, and basically at the beginning of the meeting, they kind of give you a topic to speak about, and then you go around the room, and everyone kind of says, "Hi, I'm Cameron, blah 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 blah," and this what it makes me think of, or I love the reading. I like the pass today. I don't feel like speaking, all that kind of stuff. It depends where you are in like different states. It kind of goes different ways. But anyways, in Missouri, where I first started, we were just going around the room. And when it got to me, for the first time I had to say it, I was like, "I'm Cameron and I'm an alcoholic." I didn't want to say it. This grown man sitting next to me slaps my leg and he goes, "Way to go." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Huh?" He was like, "Way to go. That's a big deal."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Huh?" So it was so crazy. I was like, so I did something. So it's like, that's what it cracked the box just a little bit. And then I started working the steps with someone who knew the steps. I didn't want to do it. This was like basically like all in or nothing, right? I'm like, fine, fine, fine. Anyways, you go through all this, you go through the meeting, people are on fire. Don't let it push you back. It's because they were where you're at. If you're as down as I was, you know what I mean? You just feel like death. You're ready to die, but you don't want to die by alcohol and have to face whoever's on the other side or whatever. You just don't want it to go down that way. Like for me, how did I get shot in the head and now I'm about to die drinking myself to death? How fucking stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I couldn't
But
stop.
sometimes you need to wake yourself up like that. Sometimes you need to talk to yourself a little bit. Like, I don't know. I do.
Like,
Not everybody. Everybody's different.
no,
Whatever works for you.
I was. That's the thing. I
I would have to
was
too. Yeah.
like I was at the limit of my power. I was talking to myself like that. I was talking to myself, well, super, get your fucking shit together. What an embarrassment. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing, but it wasn't as helpful as I thought. Anyway, so you get into the rooms. They're going to read the 12 steps, which we went over. Then they're going to talk about the 12 traditions, which I'm just going to read to you.
Yeah.
Do it.
So, yeah. We didn't finish. Like, I derailed this a little bit. We got to finish
No, no, no.
the
It's all
12
around.
tradition.
You're talking about the effect that what happens as you start to open the door to a higher power, as you open the door to maybe I need to grow. You know what I mean? And you're on it, and you're like, how do I do this? I don't think I can do this alone. It opens the door to other people having like found power somewhere, and you're like, fine. If I hear enough of you saying it, I'll try it almost to prove you wrong. And
Yeah.
then you do it and it works. And you're like, what? It's like us. Because then what happens is all of a sudden there is a presence of a higher power that you didn't even know was fucking there. Now the world has changed. Like it literally has
Yeah.
and you become like on fire. You're like, oh my God, I'm sober and I can actually see my life sober. Now, I would say for the first 6 months, I woke up hungover, maybe for the first year, because I was so used to waking up hungover. It was like my default. Like I
Yeah.
would wake up grumpy, like, like I had a hangover. I didn't. I had to like learn that over time. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of it. But when you get to the point where you're like, I don't have a choice, but I'm going to an AA meeting, you are going to hear the 12 steps. Okay. You are going to have people welcoming you. The reason they're doing it is because they have gotten sober and are working through it. And they wish that for you as well, because they wish that they knew the power of walking in the doors of AA before they had dismissed it over and over. But that's not the way it works. All right. So they're also going to read out the 12 traditions of AA are a guideline for group functioning and unity. They ensure the fellowship remains focused on its primary purpose and operates harmoniously. The 12 traditions are: one, our common welfare should come first. Personal discovery depends upon AA unity. Two, for our group purposes, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. Three, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. Four, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. Five, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. Six, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. Seven, every AA group ought to be self-supporting, declining outside contributions. Eight, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. Nine, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible for those they serve. 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues. Hence, the AA name ought never be brought up in public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. I'm just trying to open the door a little bit. Anonymous 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personality. All right. So that's a lot of the meat and potatoes you're going to hear at the beginning. It didn't make
Yeah,
a whole lot of sense.
it scrambled it down into basically like it's there to help people not be used in politics, not to be
Yeah.
used as pawn in anybody's political careers.
Yeah. It's meant for alcoholics to serve alcohol. Like it's built by alcoholics to serve alcoholics. Now, if you want to dig into like the history of AA, it's pretty crazy. It basically came down to a guy named Bill hanging out with someone else who was also an alcoholic. Like, anyways, long story short, there
They
was an
started a
alcoholic.
podcast. You just started talking about alcoholism.
Yeah, yeah. And so, and then what happened is they started building this book, and eventually they're like, we encourage you to get a book. I was like, I don't need a book. And then eventually I was like, well, I wish I could read it. So I eventually got a book. And then I'm like, well, I'm not going to meet with anybody and go over this book like a Bible study. I'm not doing something like that. And then someone was like, hey, just meet me for coffee really quick. Bring your book. And before I knew it, I was highlighting stuff in the book, just being like, whatever, I don't really need it. And then my sponsor was like, all right, let's just do one thing. I want you to write in the beginning of your book, my life is unmanageable when I drink because one, and I haven't read this in years. This is what I wrote in like the first I got my name in there and everything like that. But when I was first working with my sponsor, Jeremy, he had me write this and I was sitting in Panera or bread company, whatever you want to call it, in front of the Kirkwood Schnooks. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, what the hell are we doing? I'm scared to even be in public. Like, not only am I an alcoholic, but I've got PTSD. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm on mood stabilizers, like, and like all this kinds of stuff. But I was able to
Don't
put
like being
out
out
of
in
pure just,
public. Like here I'm sitting out in public.
I couldn't fucking do it. But it was like God was like, put one foot in front of the other. If you can't go through the whole day without drinking, then I want you to consider the next 6 hours. If you can't see the next 6 hours, I want you to consider the next hour. If you can't see the next 15 minutes, I want you to consider that. And if you can't see the next minute, I want you to consider that. Okay. And before you take a drink, I want you to call me. I'm like, okay, whatever, Jeremy. I'm serious. This is like who I was like, whatever, Jeremy, just get me fucking sober. I'll be out of here in
Oh,
no
I
time.
love how
Right?
honest you're being about it. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
And so
And
like,
hopefully it's useful for somebody because this is very real stuff.
yeah. And he's like, so I want you to write down my life is unmanageable when I drink because, okay, Jeremy, what's one thing that makes your life unmanageable? I put myself in front of everyone else. That's not like reading that now. Maybe that's not, but that's where my head was at.
Yeah.
Two, And these are written on different days. It looks like the first two were done on the first day. So the first two was
Well, I thought
I
about it
put
for a while and
myself,
reflected about it for a while.
yeah. The first one is I put myself in front of everyone else. I'm the most important person in the world. Nobody else means anything. Meanwhile, in this moment, I just come out of the fucking hospital and then like relapsed again. All these people had my back this whole time. I knew that my time was ticking and Kate couldn't survive this forever, right? So I was like, I don't want to lose my life. I'm willing to get sober for that. And I can't physically handle alcohol, seizures, tremors, hangovers. Those are my first two reasons to get sober that I could write down. Had
Hmm.
nothing to do with I want to be closer to God, had nothing to do with a higher power, had nothing to do with anything. Just get me sober. That's it. That's all I need. You stay over there. I'll be in the corner basically accepting the little bits that I want. Stay away from me. I don't know how much longer I wrote this, and I haven't read this before I read it out loud, but so the third thing I wrote later in Blue Pen was I take what is good in my life for granted. I, so I don't take or I take what is good in my life for granted. Four was I don't show up for life. When I'm drinking, I'm in a basement, I'm hidden.
Yeah.
And then five, I'm stuck in the past slash resentments. So just looking at those have nothing to do with God or a higher power. This had everything to do with me being an alcoholic, not being able to drink, but not being able to see my life without it. I can't physically handle it. I'm literally writing down I have seizures because I drink alcohol or when I drink alcohol that put me in the hospital, almost killed me, and I still want to drink. That's obsession, right? That's past healthy alcohol consumption. I think you would agree. But I had to write that down to understand it. That's crazy. And then I
Well,
take what is good in my life for granted. I had been living in a life where I was the most hard done to person in the whole world. As I walked around, as I was able to breathe, use every all part of my body and all that kind of stuff, as I still had a beautiful wife, I take what is good in my life for granted. I wrote this sober, knowing that I had been selfish, if anything. Nothing to do with the higher power. I just started realizing, oh shit, I've been selfish.
yeah.
And then I'm stuck in the past in resentment. I couldn't get past that alone or with the coaching of my sponsor. I looked right back at my sponsor and said, I'm allowed to have these resentments. And I explained them to him, like
Yeah.
straight up. I was like, if I get the opportunity, it would be okay for me to kill these people. Like it would be okay. And he's like, hold up. So I was like a
Yeah.
whole nother breed. You know what I mean? Like I was like a whole nother breed. I like, so my sponsor had a
And to
sponsor.
be clear, you
Yeah.
you're moved way past that area.
Yeah. But
Not even in the same category anymore. Correct?
exactly. So just through our conversation, you'll be able to tell from the beginning of the conversation, this is what it's about. It's not about blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. That's Cameron in the program. I went to a meeting last night. You know, this is Cameron on the edge of the program. This is me just wanting to be sober, not wanting anything else, just
Yeah.
because I had been licked by alcohol. But what happened is by going to these meetings and not being able to stay sober on my own, it opened the door to the higher power, the chair, and that developed into more.
Well, the higher power could also be the community. We've said on here many times, as a point of our opinion, and this probably found in a lot of fact. We are communal creatures. We need our community. We need our friends. We need our family. We need the people that we can talk to. We can't just let the voices in our heads always have the arguments back and forth. We need to let those voices out, put them in front of other people, let them digest it, hear it, regurgitate information back, and then you get a better understanding of everything you're going through, good or bad, better understanding of life in general, and get more clearer results with what you want to do and how you want to react and decisions you want to make. I mean, she's going through this a little bit with my mom right now. She's getting ready to move and getting a new car and just going 100 different miles an hour in different directions all the time. It's like, just make the best decision you can with the information you have available. Just do
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Make the best decision you can with the information you have available. Run with it. If it ends up not being quite the right decision, tweak it. If it ended up being completely the wrong decision, stop it and change courses. but make a
Yeah.
decision, and because otherwise you just sit there going, "What I do this? What if I do that? What if I do this? What if? What if?"
And that,
Make the
yeah,
decision and
that's
move.
so true. That's so true. Because I was stuck in a place where I wasn't making any moves, I wasn't taking any action, and I was just running over shit in my head. And a lot of it was I shouldn't have to do AA. This is bullshit.
Right.
Like all this like
Well, you're in
sad
denial
story
still.
going on. Yeah. And I believe it was true. Like I say sad story now, but that was my narrative. Like it really was. I hate to say it, but it turns out I'm not the only one. Like I've literally sat next to doctors who feel the same way and have had the same experiences as me. I've sat next to homeless people who've done amazing things beyond service in the AA program that I aspire to. You know what I mean? Like it is really an open forum because you're coming together with one consistent problem. I cannot control my alcohol intake. And you're licked so bad that you've gone into those doors
Yeah.
that, and you're right. The big thing about it, because while you're out there and like in the normal world and with people who can like understand that two drinks is enough and like they're not partying like all
Yeah.
night and all that kind of stuff. And even if I don't even know, because it applies so different, it applies to each individual in different ways and different things. But so the only thing that like I got to, and the only thing I could agree with, is that I need to go to a meeting because not only is my therapist not going to work with me, is but for me I was like, I'm going to die. But beyond that is my life has become unmanageable and I don't know what to do. And that was enough to get me to my first meeting. Once I did that, when I got out of that meeting, I thought I had just gotten out of like fucking 12 hours of like of a pressure cooker or something like that. Like that's the way you feel, you're like that first hour, you're like the meeting's only an hour. You know what I mean? And like the first 10 minutes are reading the 12 traditions, blah, 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 blah. And then they'll, say, does anyone have a topic, depending on where you're at? Or they already have a topic in mind and you blah, 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 blah. And if it goes around the room in that meeting, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's like, all right, and you raise your hand and then you're recognized and you speak, and then the next person raises their hands, recognized and speak. But if you get into, we'll call a pinch situation, and it's going around the room and it gets to you, all you have to say is, my name is Cameron. I'm happy to be here. And with that, I pass. You don't even have to say I'm an alcoholic. You actually don't. Like in that first time, just be like, hi, you could make up a name if you want. No one's
Yeah.
there checking your info. No one's, you know what I mean? Like, just you're there. You should, like, I'm so proud of you for even like considering going into the meeting. You know what I mean? Like, understand that. Like,
Yeah.
you stepping through the door is a big deal. If you want to go the first day, step in the door and walk out. That happens. That happens a lot.
That's still like all the different advices that we've heard and shared. That is moving the first pebble. That is moving a rock. That's your room's so dirty you don't know where to start. Start with a sock drawer. Start somewhere. Just start something. So even if it's just walking into the door and then walking out, just to say that you walked in, at least you started something.
Or just pull into the parking lot. I don't know how many times that I've seen cars pull into the parking lot at meetings, and we'll literally be like standing outside, kind of hanging out, blah, 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 before the meeting, like 5 minutes before. You see a car pull in, you see it go away. You see it happen again. And then one day the person walks in, and you're like, yeah, I've seen you. I'm proud of you. That's awesome. That takes courage.
Yeah, that's
Like, that's huge. Just
and
get to the
that's
parking lot.
community too. Being in the community to embrace that lost sheep that's
Yeah.
coming in straggling, not knowing what to expect, and embracing
Because
them
we've
and giving them
all,
a warm invite and warm welcome. That's going to be
yeah.
part of it. That's you're part of the community doing that from that
Yeah.
angle. That is part of the scenario. That's awesome.
Yeah, and we're so washed out by this like social media, like kind of everything's perfect world. So you
Yeah,
almost get programmed like, oh, I've got shit wrong. I'm the oddity. Bullshit. Everyone's going through
I'm
something.
the
You know what I
oddity.
mean? Like everyone's going
No,
through it.
yeah,
And if alcohol is your thing, you're not alone. I didn't want it to be my issue. It ended up being a problem. But by doing the work, my life is better than I believe. Well, first off, I'd be dead if I kept drinking. Alcohol is still a major problem for me. While I'm celebrating life, my addiction sometimes, like they'll say, is out in the parking lot doing push ups. It doesn't go away, it does progress. So you do have to monitor it. You do have to be on top of it. I hadn't gone to a meeting in the last like 6 months. I'm about 8 years sober. That's not good. That's my laziness coming into play. That's me wanting it to be enough, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When there's more to the
You think?
journey, and
I'm
life
sorry. You
now is
think that this
amazing.
doing this podcast is probably like replace those AA meetings in your brain a little bit? Because you do kind of hit some of the topics when we're talking about it. You do kind of reference some of the things you've learned at AA when we're talking about things,
Maybe, but I
which is
think,
fine. But at the same time, it's good of you to realize that this isn't enough.
yeah,
Probably you need to keep going, keep your base strong.
I agree with you. I think my brain's been tricking itself. It's been like somehow the cup's been getting filled, but so what am I trying to say? There's like a spiritual cup and then there's an AA cup. They're not the same. And so I've been like thinking that just by when you fill the spiritual
Yeah.
cup, you don't have like as many of the desires to drink, if you will, because your spiritual cup is being filled. That can be sufficient. But imagine a day where your spiritual cup gets drained for some reason and you haven't been filling your AA cup. It becomes really easy to be like,
You just
I
slip
guess I'm
up right
drinking
there.
again,
Yeah.
and it's like I
And it
heard
probably
someone
wouldn't happen
share,
that fast.
and I heard, so there's a person in a group, and obviously I'm not going to share who it is or where I was or anything like that, but I did hear a great share about a person who has been trying to get 90 days in a row sober and has just been not been able to do it. And she
Yeah.
explained, and it was so weird because I walked into the meeting lately and I was like, I had been playing a dangerous game. I haven't been to a meeting in a long time. By the grace of God, I didn't drink. I don't know what's been going on. And the meeting ended up being about needing to get to meetings. It's funny how that worked out. And then right after I shared, the person next to me, she goes, I just had a relapse. I'm trying to get to 90 days. And I got a call from one of my friends over the weekend. She was having a bad day. This was like my party girl, my best friend back in the day. I went over to check on her. She was in the living room. I walked my ass in the kitchen, poured me a drink, and sat down with her in her sorrow. And then woke up the next day just regretting everything. And like I hear that, I'm like, oh my, like, and this person has now come back to a meeting and
Yeah.
it's now like technically starting over with her time. And she did it. Like she did it. Like, and she went and picked up.
She's going to feel that disappointment for the next 90 days.
Yeah,
She needs to give herself some grace and leeway for the success that she's made, and that it is just
yeah,
a slip up, it is just a hiccup, it is not like completely starting over. Even if you're starting over the time for your 90 days, that's one thing. But
that's all it is.
she has to give herself a little bit of grace and acceptance of and affirmation that she has done well. Otherwise, that disappointment can just completely derail you, and you wouldn't even go back to another meeting. But yeah, I guess she did the next day. That's a good sign.
So, well, yeah, and then she got the chip, and then as she was coming past me, I fucking high fived her. I was like, that takes courage. She's like, yeah, it does, or yes, it does. I should have been here yesterday doing this, but I'm here today. I'm like, that's fucking awesome. That's amazing. That is a person stepping up in their own life, not for anybody else, but they're like, this can't happen.
Wait, she
Why am
waited
I doing
91
this?
days to get her 90-day chip after all that?
Yes. Well, we'll see. And I prayed for her last night. But what's so cool is I don't know this woman. I'm praying for her. You know what I mean? There was another individual there who was like,
Community, common goals.
he's like, I just can't stop. And so I shook his hand afterwards. I was like, I know that feeling, kind of like we've talked about. It's hard to listen when you're on fire, when your life's on fire. I've been there. I'm sorry that you're going through it. Just keep coming back. This person hasn't even decided that they're not going to drink. Like they're still drinking, but they know it's an issue. So they're going to the meetings. They're like, I don't know what the fuck to do. Young
Yeah.
guy. And he's just like, I don't know what the fuck to do. So now he's in a room with like me and like a couple old heads, some like new guys and male, female, whatever it is, but he's there. I mean, he's there. And super proud of him for that. Like that's it takes so much courage to step up to the plate. It's so much easier to run from it. And I did for a long time. But when you eventually step up to the plate and say, okay, I'm ready to admit, or for me, I'm ready to admit my life is fucking out of control.
Mm.
It's not just unmanageable. For me, the fucking wheels were coming off. The wall was in front of me. I'm driving 100 and fucking 50 miles an hour. I was going to die. And it was the scariest thing because I had to get super humble and really ask God for help. And that led to my first major prayers with God where I was basically wrestling with him. I was like, this is fucking bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, what is happening? Blah, 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 blah.
Welcome to humanity.
8 years later, 8 years later, you know what
Yeah.
was happening in that moment? God was saving me. He knew I couldn't go any further, and I had to, and I listened just once and asked for help. I was like, fine, if you're there, please help me. I need help. Please take this obsession away from me for drinking and all this kind of stuff. Just deep prayer, like weeping. You know what I mean? Crying like a kid. Like the quick like things. But my life started changing. And AA actually opened my world to God. And then God fucking came in and took he was there the whole time, but finally I could see him. And that's humbling too. When you're like, oh, you've been here the whole time. And then like someone tells you to read, what is it? Footsteps in the Sand. Do you know that one?
Yes. The went to 2 feet. Why did you leave me? No, I didn't leave you. That's when I was carrying you.
Exactly. Let's see if I can find it. It kind of parallels the storm one. Like,
Yeah.
and then the storm. Where were you? All right. So footsteps in the sand. This would be a great way for us to kind of finish this up. Thank you guys for listening to this one. I just think it's a really good introduction to what an AA meeting would
Yeah.
be if you decided to go to one. I wish it's kind of a behind the scenes look. We're not telling you to go or anything like that. I will say my life not only got better. So what happens is you're like, okay, fine, it saved me a little bit, and then it really helps, and then bye bye, and then you may have like a down period or whatever. Uh, my life has gone places that it would not have gone had I not been sober. That makes sense. In order to
Yeah.
get to where I've gone, I had to be sober. I also wanted to I want to make sure that when I die, I'm sober.
Yeah.
I don't want to die. So, footprints in the sand. A nice man, Tim Cundy, told me to read this when I came down to Georgia. He said, one night I dreamed a dream. I was walking alone along the beach with my Lord. Across the dark sky flashes scenes from my life. For each scene, I noticed two steps of footprints in the sand, one belonging to me and one belonging to the Lord, or my Lord. When the last scene of my life before me, I looked back at the footprints in the sand, there was only one set of footprints. I realized that this was at the lowest and saddest times of my life. This always bothered me, and I questioned the Lord about my dilemma. Lord, you told me when I decided to follow you, you would walk and talk with me all the way. But I'm aware that during the most troublesome times of my life, there's only one set of footprints. I just don't understand why. Why, when I needed you most, you leave me. He whispered, my precious child, I love you and I will never leave you. Never, ever. During your trials and tests, when you saw only one set of footprints, when it was then that I carried you. And it's like, like,
But see,
you're like,
there's so many other things of understanding and clarity about how this world works and the afterlife and everything that's going to happen to us when things get happen. That we just can't even put it into words or understand it. We just can't. We're not supposed to. That's why we can't explain it. That's why nobody can explain it. You can't science it. You can't over religious explain it. You can't. We're not supposed to understand the
and
language yet.
that is God's humor. That is
Yeah.
like talking to a small child. That is like talking to a small child. And just being like, so you can't have the keys to the car because you're 12.
Yeah. Yeah. There was only two sets because that's when I was carrying you.
That's when I was driving. Yeah. And you're like, I'm an idiot. Like, and then you realize how blessed you've actually been when you thought it was nothing. You're like the brat kid who was like at fucking Disney World and like, I want an ice cream. Like, you're at Disney World. Like, you're ruining the whole day because you want a fucking ice cream. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
not that I've been to Disney World. I'm just saying, like,
No, I
it's
understand that.
just funny what we can focus on. Anyways, so that was like a very brief way to kind of like that is my like experience with AA, and that's how the meetings start, and then they finish, and then everyone kind of you can hang out and talk, but most of the time I just, especially in the beginning, just ran straight out to my car, boom, got out of there, and then like, and then on the way home, I'm like, Lord, thank you for getting me to an AA meeting. Like just the fact that that I went means that I felt like I was doing something. I'm such a brat too, like I want the outcome without the work a lot of the times, and then
We all do. We want the easy road, but the easy road isn't the right road.
and that's what,
Anything that we really grow from, or anything worth really finding growth and knowledge from, it takes work to get there. You have to study, you have to learn, you have to try, you have to fail, you have to try, you have to fail, you have to try, you have to fail. And then you finally succeed. And it's not the failure. You had, like, what is it? Edison took 50 times to get the little filament in the light bulb.
yeah, the light bulb.
And I didn't fail 50 times. I just found 50 ways not to make a light bulb.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
You got to keep
Really,
trying. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. Keep climbing out of the hole. The ladder is in the one rung at a time. I used to say that one all the time to people at work. You're not
and
going to
when
get
you're
out of this hole
climbing
by
that
yourself. If you stumble, come down 1, 2 rungs, don't lose faith. Keep
yeah,
climbing. You'll come back out. It doesn't
yeah.
take over. It doesn't happen overnight.
And something I tend to do, unfortunately, is like when there's a big goal, I'm looking at the top rung of the ladder. I'm going, that's a long way. And then I'm also, unfortunately, opening my peripheral vision to anyone who's around me. How fast are they going? How are they doing it? Like, are they going to beat me? Am I going to be first? Like, all this cloud of just bullshit when I really should just be looking at each rung. One step, one grab. One step,
Mm-hmm.
one grab. One step, one grab.
Slow
One
and
step,
steady
one
wins
grab.
the race.
And we talk about it all the time, but why do we keep taking back? You know what I mean? Like, Jesus, take the wheel. Nope, never mind. Give me that wheel back. And
In our
it's just so
nature,
funny. And
we were
I'm
made in
glad
His
that we're
image.
talking about it. We were made in his image. God is funny because like he
Yeah,
gets you to those places
we
and
got His humor. We got His
he's
creativity.
like, yeah, he's like, see how stupid you are? I was like, not only was I coming with a blessing that you asked for, but it was 10 times better. Would you just calm down and wait for my timing and do the work? It's just like, it sounds easy, but it's not. But on a daily basis, just do what you can, put in whatever you can. If you're having issues with alcohol or
You
another
rock.
substance, just keep working on it. There's also NA meetings, which is Narcotics Anonymous. So anyone dealing with opiates, or you can find a home wherever it is. I mean, I think
Yeah, there's
there are all kinds of
every
addiction
kind of addiction you can have.
groups.
They'll have a group.
But
Sex
but
addiction,
to me,
drugs, alcohol.
yeah, and alcohol is tricky because it is technically blessed by the government or whatever. It is, you can sell it wherever you need to and like all that kind of stuff. It's, normal. It's every time you watch a sports game, it's a commercial. Every time, you go somewhere, there's a billboard. So like I just had to be pulled away from that and be like, well, that's not for me anymore.
Yeah,
Anyways,
nothing wrong with that. Yeah, Joe Rogan just came out and said he stopped drinking on one of his podcasts recently. He was talking to somebody about it. He goes, I didn't have any reason. I just decided that like, here I am. I care about my body so much. I work out. I eat the right things and supplements and foods and none of the dyes and processed things. And then 2 or 3 times a week, I'm going out and just putting a bunch of poison in my body. I don't understand why I'm doing it. So I just decided to stop. I mean, that's awesome that he's able to do that. Not everybody can just stop like that. But you
right.
know,
And that's okay.
he also
That's
has
when you
he's also got
go,
a lot more practice with his working willpower, with his workout and stuff. So he's probably he's already got some tools in his toolbox of how to keep putting one foot in front of the other when he has a problem come up. So he's well adjusted and be able to get through it. That's awesome. Not everybody can do that.
he should probably have us on to discuss this.
I think so too. Let's send him a request.
Let's reach out to his people
Yeah.
and see what's going on.
Yeah,
All
we're
right, John,
probably
I'll
only
talk to
like
you
the fifth
soon.
or sixth request. Probably only the fifth or sixth request that he'll get that day or that
That's
hour.
normal. Yeah. Yeah, that hour.
All right.
All right, buddy. I think we did a good job of kind of explaining what it would be like to the people who are kind of got an itch and they're like,
Yeah.
I might need some help. Accept the help. Just go. Like, it's not anything to
Feel
be
like I went
embarrassed
to some
about.
AA when I was in my 20s. I was really involved with the church, and I think we helped put on some AA meetings or something. I don't really recall going because I felt like I had a drinking problem. I probably did. I
Well, you
definitely did.
never
I've been
know.
drinking all my life. But I think it was a good chance to talk about it a little bit. If anybody had questions or was thinking about it out there in the audience, it was a good insight for the little back door of what you can see inside of a AA meeting.
Yeah. And if you've got,
Good
if you,
call.
Yeah, and if you've got a question specifically about AA meetings, I'm going to put how about you reach out to me, whoever's listening, at Cameron at, I'm going to give you the website, ptsdsupport.org. So that is a
Right behind
website,
you.
a sister website to the show that explains kind of PTSD, what it is, how to handle it after you've gone through the situation, how to do things prior to set yourself up for, a better recovery, all that kind of stuff. I share my situation and how I got better, most importantly, faith and sobriety was a big part of it. It's hard to make big life decisions with a head full of booze in my head. So I could not do that. And I felt like it's basically like my kryptonite. Like I have to see it as, I don't know, it's like my kryptonite. If I were Superman, it's my kryptonite. And I just got to stay away from it. And it's easier said than done. Why would you take the thing that poisons you? It even says intoxicated, toxic, toxic. It's actually, you're toxifying your body. So why do I do it? It's fucking crazy. And I still think about it. That's called alcoholism. So if you're out there, you're not alone. I love you. I'll talk to you next week. Dennis, thank you so much.
You
And
got it, Cam.
we got some cool stuff coming up. And send us suggestions for the show if you want to. But if not, keep listening and love you.
Keep sharing
Bye
just in
bye.
case somebody else gets a tool from the
Yes.
toolbox. And
Share,
we have some
share,
exciting
share.
guests coming on too. I can't
I
wait.
know.
I'm not spoiling you.
Yeah, don't spoil anything. We got to get them. We got to finalize the
We got to
booking,
get it
but we've
finalized.
got like five new people who've got a lot of interesting experiences and specializations in different things. We got to get off of this, otherwise I'm going to tell them who it is. All right.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Exciting news.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. Please share and comment. Share and comment. Leave a post if you wanna. Have a great week. We love you.